The studio was prepped like any other political segment. Soft lighting, sleek monitors, branded coffee mugs, and a digital chyron that read, "Democrats in Divide, a deep dive." But behind the glassy set of the CNN Broadcast Center, producers whispered with a touch more urgency than usual. Because this wasn't just another debate. It featured two of the most outspoken figures of the Democratic Party. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, known simply as AOC to millions, and Jasmine Crockett, the fiery freshman congresswoman from Texas, whose rise had been meteoric. Both were brilliant, unapologetically vocal, and disturbingly unfiltered. But until tonight, they had never shared a stage. Jasmine entered first, dressed in a vibrant crimson suit, her eyes locked in with the camera's lens like a laser. She took her seat with calm confidence, nodding to the moderator. Then came AOC, all black blazer, hair tightly pulled back, her face composed, but her eyes already scanning the room like a strategist in a battlefield. She didn't nod, she sat. The moderator, sensing the tension, cracked a quick joke. Neither woman laughed. "Let's begin," he said, "with President Biden's recent compromise on the corporate tax plan. Critics say the move betrays progressive values. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, your take?" AOC leaned in. "It's not just a betrayal. It's a surrender. We tell working-class Americans we'll fight for them, then sign deals with lobbyists behind closed doors." Jasmine raised an eyebrow. The corner of her mouth twitched. Not a smile, but something between restraint and disbelief. "Alexandria," Jasmine said, voice steady, "you act like this is about purity. It's not. It's about power. And compromise is how real power is built. Otherwise, you're just yelling into the void." Boom! The first blow landed. AOC turned her full body toward Jasmine. "I don't yell into voids. I expose them. And right now, the void is within our own party." The air thickened. The moderator tried to move on. Let's turn to climate legislation." "Let's not," Jasmine cut in. "Because if we don't address this, if we pretend division doesn't exist, then the people watching this right now, they'll lose faith in us. Again." AOC didn't blink. "Then maybe they should know the truth." A pause, a heartbeat. Then the screen flickered as producers behind the scenes whispered, "We've got a situation." And the nation leaned in. The moderator's lips twitched nervously as he tried to steer the conversation back on track, but it was like trying to tame a hurricane with a paper fan. "AOC," he said, "you've spoken before about systemic failures in party leadership. Do you believe Congresswoman Crockett represents that failure?" Before he even finished the sentence, the audience tensed. AOC tilted her head slowly. "I believe Jasmine represents what happens when ambition outpaces accountability." Her voice was calm, but her words snapped through the air like a whip. "You don't just walk into Congress and claim to speak for the people while defending billion-dollar compromises behind closed doors." Jasmine leaned forward, one perfectly manicured hand tapping the desk. "And you don't get to act like you're the only one who gives a damn," she shot back. "You have a platform. You have cameras. But I have communities, real ones, who need food stamps, school funding, and housing now, not 5 years from your next political crusade." Gasps rippled across the audience. The moderator's eyes darted left and right like a referee watching a prize fight. Jasmine didn't stop. "You turn every issue into a purity test. If it's not your idea, you paint it as corruption. That's not leadership. That's arrogance dressed as activism." AOC's smile was tight and sharp. "And you dress your caution as wisdom. But guess what? The people out there dying from floods, fires, medical debt, they're not interested in polished delay tactics. They need boldness. Now. For a moment, the studio was completely still. Then Jasmine laughed, but there was no joy in it. So what? You'll torch the house to make a point? That's not bold. That's reckless. You don't fix a rotten foundation by decorating the windows, Jasmine, AOC replied. You tear it down and build it right. The moderator stood frozen, headset buzzing with producer chatter. Should we cut to commercial? Number, let it ride. Ratings are spiking. We're trending worldwide. The tension wasn't just on the stage now. It had bled into the control room, Twitter feeds, and millions of living rooms. Viewers weren't just watching a debate. They were watching a collision, and no one could look away. Jasmine Crockett adjusted her mic, leaned in, and narrowed her gaze. Let's get real, Alexandria. You've turned being disruptive into a brand. You weaponize dissent like it's a virtue. But governing isn't about throwing punches. It's about building coalitions. AOC leaned back in her chair, her fingers steepled under her chin. Funny, because last I checked, the only thing most of our colleagues have built are excuses. And if being disruptive is what it takes to wake up a party that's falling asleep at the wheel, so be it. The room was a pressure cooker. Jasmine scoffed. That might win you Instagram likes, but in the real world, your tactics stall legislation. You block progress in the name of perfection. AOC shot forward like a coiled spring. You're mistaking compromise for survival, Jasmine. But some of us didn't come here to survive. We came to change everything. And that doesn't happen by coloring inside the lines of a broken system. The moderator tried once again. Congresswomen, please, AOC raised her hand. Let her finish. I want to hear what party obedience sounds like these days. Jasmine stood. So did AOC. Two silhouettes against a glowing backdrop of American flags, studio lights, and seething energy. You pretend you're the future, Jasmine hissed, but you're just the loudest part of the past. And you pretend you're the present, AOC countered, but you're still taking orders from the same playbook that's failed millions. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Let them go!" Security looked toward the stage. A producer whispered, "Do not interfere." Because this wasn't a debate anymore. It was a reckoning. Millions watched not for the politics, but for what came next. For who would flinch. For who would strike the blow that couldn't be taken back. And deep down, both women knew one sentence could change everything. The air was thick, not just with tension, but with consequence. Jasmine Crockett didn't blink. Her tone turned razor-sharp. Alexandria, you grandstand on every issue like it's a stage play. You throw out words like revolution, but when it's time to vote, you vanish behind statements, not solutions. AOC's jaw tightened. You want solutions? I've written them. I've marched for them. I've been arrested for them. What have you done besides learn how to blend in with the status quo? Jasmine stepped forward, fire flashing in her eyes. I work in the real world. I talk to mothers who can't afford rent, not lecture halls at Columbia. That landed like a punch. AOC's voice dropped, colder, sharper. Do not confuse proximity to struggle with understanding it. I waited tables. I cleaned floors. I paid off student loans bartending at midnight. Don't mistake me for privileged just because I fight louder than you're comfortable with. The moderator stood, mic in hand, trying to interject, but neither woman flinched. Ladies, please, this isn't— Let America hear this, AOC said, her voice steady. Let them hear what division inside progress looks like. Jasmine's lips curled. No, Let them hear what happens when performative activism meets actual responsibility. The audience was on edge. Viewers at home leaned in closer. Twitter was exploding. Clips were already being cut. Suddenly, Jasmine reached into her folder and pulled out a report. Thick, stamped, real. She slapped it onto the table. You voted against this bill. A child health care expansion that your own district begged for. And why? Because it didn't come with your signature. Gasps filled the room. AOC didn't move for a second. Then, slowly, she picked up the report, flipped a few pages, and let it fall back to the desk with a dull thud. She looked Jasmine dead in the eye. That's the cost of integrity, she said. Not everyone's willing to pay it. The lights buzzed above. No one breathed. Even the moderator dropped his gaze. Because something bigger than a policy clash had just happened. This was no longer about party lines. It was about identity, power, legacy. And the fire wasn't going out anytime soon. AOC was still holding the report, her fingers pressed against the pages as if she could feel the weight of every accusation, every headline it would trigger. Then, a sharp chime echoed in the studio. The producer motioned frantically behind the glass. A surprise video call had been patched in. It was unplanned. It was live. The screen behind the two women flickered to life. A face appeared. Bernie Sanders. The audience gasped. Even Jasmine turned, startled. Bernie adjusted his glasses, his voice cutting through the silence. If I may, I didn't expect to join tonight, but I've been watching, and I couldn't stay quiet. AOC straightened her spine. Jasmine crossed her arms. Bernie leaned in. You're both right, and you're both dangerously wrong. The tension thickened. Bernie turned his gaze to AOC. You're a fighter, Alexandria. I've seen it. But idealism without collaboration becomes isolation. Then to Jasmine. And pragmatism without vision becomes compliance. The room was dead silent. He continued, America doesn't need another televised war between progressives. We need strategy. You two, shoulder to shoulder, could change everything. But like this, you're feeding the very machine you claim to resist? Jasmine opened her mouth to speak, but paused. AOC lowered her eyes. Then Bernie finished, I came here to remind you, not to destroy each other, but to outthink them. And then, just as suddenly, the screen went black. The silence that followed was heavier than anything said. Jasmine cleared her throat. He's not wrong. AOC nodded slowly. But I'm not backing down. A spark returned to Jasmine's eyes. Then, let's finish this right. The tension shifted. Not dissolved, but transformed. From combat into confrontation with purpose. The moderator finally dared to speak. We'll be right back after this break. The screen faded to commercial. But the nation wasn't turning away. Because this wasn't just a panel anymore. This was a movement, live, raw, and unpredictable. The commercial break ended not with music or applause, but with silence. The kind of silence that anticipates a storm. The moderator's voice returned, cautiously upbeat. Welcome back. If you thought the first half was intense, stay seated. The studio lights shifted. And then, footsteps. The audience turned, cameras swung around. From the side entrance of the stage emerged Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States. Shock flooded the room. Jasmine Crockett blinked. AOC clenched her jaw. Kamala took a slow, confident step forward, greeted the moderator with a nod, and turned toward the two congresswomen like a judge approaching a courtroom. I didn't plan on speaking, Kamala began, her voice calm, almost too calm, but I've been watching, and it seems the Democratic Party is eating itself alive. So I figured I'd offer a fork. Nervous laughter broke the tension for a moment. Then Jasmine spoke. With respect, Vice President, some of us are tired of being told to fall in line when the line itself is leading nowhere. Kamala's smile didn't reach her eyes. And some of us are tired of mistaking noise for leadership. AOC stepped forward, tension coiling around her words. Is that what you think this is? Noise? We're not children throwing tantrums. We're leaders confronting rot. Kamala didn't flinch. Leadership is also knowing when to unify, not just when to disrupt. And unity doesn't mean submission, Jasmine fired back. You say unify, but what you really mean is obey. Gasps from the crowd. The temperature rose. Kamala looked between them. What I mean is, the world is watching. And the people we claim to represent? They're wondering if we can even represent ourselves. A pause. AOC met her eyes. Then maybe they deserve to see the truth. That even within our party, there are fractures we must face. Kamala stepped closer. Face them, yes, but not fuel them with theater. And just like that, the battle lines redrew. Not just Jasmine versus AOC, but generation versus establishment. Idealism versus strategy. Change versus control. And every camera captured it. The three women, center stage, locked in a triangle of tension so palpable it became iconic. Hashtags exploded. Clips circulated in real time. America didn't blink, because something historic was unfolding, and no one could predict what would come next. As the dust from Kamala's intervention settled, the director signaled the crew. Patch him through, he whispered into his headset. Now. The screen behind the three women flickered again. And there he was, Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, political predator, and the last man AOC ever expected to share a screen with. The air was sucked out of the room. Kamala's eyebrows rose in disbelief. Jasmine muttered, "You've got to be kidding me." DeSantis grinned, calm and composed, like a lion dropped into a cage full of distracted prey. "Hello, ladies," he said. "I couldn't resist the urge to join the Democratic Debate Club." AOC's arms folded. "This is a conversation for grown-ups, Governor." DeSantis chuckled. "That's rich, coming from the queen of performative outrage." He turned his attention to Jasmine. "And you, Congresswoman Crockett, how does it feel watching your party implode while Americans beg for real leadership?" Jasmine fired back. "Better than hiding behind culture wars and book bans." The crowd erupted. DeSantis leaned in toward the camera. "You know what's funny? You three are tearing each other apart over who's more woke. And meanwhile, my numbers keep climbing." Kamala cut in, ice in her tone. "You're not here to offer insight. You're here to gloat." He didn't deny it. "Of course, because I've already won tonight. The left is doing my job for me." AOC stepped forward, her voice slicing through the static. "We may fight. We may disagree. But don't mistake this for weakness. At least we debate in daylight. Unlike the darkness you thrive in." DeSantis tilted his head. "Then let's shine that daylight on something real, Congresswoman. Tell the people how your Green New Deal bankrupts working families. Tell them how your policies sell dreams, but deliver decay." AOC's eyes blazed. "And you tell them how your silence on gun deaths, your attacks on education, your obsession with power, how that builds anything worth saving." Silence, not from fear, from awe. Because this wasn't just a clash of parties anymore. It was ideological warfare, beamed into every living room in America. And no one was safe. Within minutes of the DeSantis intrusion, social media became a war zone. Crockett vs. DeSantis. Sidens AOQ unleashed. Kamala strikes back. The woke meltdown all trended simultaneously, on opposite sides of the internet. CNN, Fox, MSNBC, every network replayed the footage with their own commentary tracks. The image of AOC standing firm, Jasmine pointing a finger, Kamala glaring at the monitor, and DeSantis smirking like a man lighting a fuse. It was everywhere. In New York, crowds gathered in Union Square, watching the rebroadcast on jumbo screens. Cheers erupted with each clapback from the panel. But in Miami, bars playing the same footage burst with laughter when DeSantis accused AOC of trying to save the planet by bankrupting every small-town plumber. Meanwhile, in a private DNC strategy meeting, senior advisors scrambled. What's the damage? Depends which side you're on. Forget sides. What's the clip count? By midnight, the combined segments had over 45 million views. At Capitol Hill, reporters swarmed hallways. What did you think of AOC's comment? Does Kamala still support Jasmine Crockett? Will DeSantis be punished for hijacking the feed? AOC, walking to her office with her head high, paused only once. A reporter shouted, "Would you debate DeSantis live, one-on-one?" She turned, deadpan. "I don't debate cowards. I correct them." The hallway exploded in camera flashes. Back in Texas, Jasmine Crockett posted a single tweet. "This isn't over. It just started." And across the political spectrum, one message became clear. This wasn't a panel anymore. It was a battlefield. And the next move could change everything. The next morning, Capitol Hill felt like it had been struck by a digital earthquake. Senators walked faster. Staffers whispered louder. Lobbyists clutched folders with polling data that had changed overnight. In the Democratic caucus room, tempers flared. A California representative slammed his notebook. "She made the party look divided. Again!" Another fired back. "She exposed the truth." Maybe that's what scares you. Across the aisle, the Republican war room was practically celebrating. "Let them eat each other alive," one strategist said, pouring coffee over a stack of memos. DeSantis, now hailed as the man who hacked the woke show, was fielding talk show invites by the hour. Meanwhile, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sat in a private meeting with her inner circle. She didn't look angry. She looked surgical. "Pull everything Jasmine's voted on for the past 2 years. I want to know exactly how progressive she thinks she is." Her aide blinked. "Are we going after her?" AOC stared out the window. "Not publicly. But if she wants to draw lines in the sand, I'll make sure she knows who built the beach." Elsewhere, Jasmine Crockett met with Kamala Harris in a secure office near the Capitol basement. Kamala folded her arms. "You handled yourself well, but next time, prepare for friendly fire. We've got bigger enemies." Jasmine replied, "Tell that to the party's Twitter accounts. They're eating their own." Outside, protesters began to gather. One side held signs that read, "Truth first, even if it hurts." The other, "Unity over ego." The media frenzy hadn't slowed. It had multiplied. Late-night shows had already spliced together highlight reels with dramatic music. Memes flooded Reddit, and influencers picked sides like it was a Super Bowl. One outlet posted the headline, "The Democratic Civil War has a new frontline, AOC versus Jasmine." And in the shadows of Washington, a political PAC quietly updated its war chest, preparing ads targeting both women. Because in a country addicted to spectacle, division sells. And this was the show of the decade. 2 days later, an unexpected alert lit up every phone in Washington. Tonight, AOC versus Jasmine Crockett. Exclusive debate on MSNBC, 8 p.m. ET. The internet exploded. Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, everyone was posting about it. Is this a debate or a demolition derby? one user joked. Another wrote, "I've seen WWE promos with less build-up than this." Backstage at MSNBC headquarters, the mood was electric. Producers paced with headsets, rehearsing camera switches. Social media interns triple-checked hashtags, number AOCVS Jasmine, number Blue Firestorm, number Woke Wars. The stage was styled like a presidential debate. 2 podiums, stark lighting, and a digital counter reading "Live In, 00:2843. In the green room, Alexandria sipped black coffee, her eyes sharp. Her team went silent as she stood up. She turned to them and said, "Tonight, I'm not debating Jasmine. I'm debating every comfortable liberal who forgot what we stand for." On the other side, Jasmine adjusted her mic, her jaw set. Kamala Harris had texted her one word: "Breathe." Jasmine replied, "I'm not nervous. I'm ready." When the doors opened and both women stepped on stage, the crowd didn't cheer. They held their breath. The moderator welcomed the nation and asked the opening question: "How can Americans trust a party that can't even trust itself?" AOC responded first. Her voice was steady, her tone fierce. "The American people don't need rehearsed unity. They need unapologetic truth. Jasmine, if you're going to stand on stage and call yourself a progressive—" She turned slightly. "Then explain why your donor list reads like a Silicon Valley dinner menu." Gasps. Cameras zoomed in. Jasmine didn't flinch. "I'll explain it right after you explain how blaming everyone in the party but yourself makes you a leader. You don't get to call yourself the conscience of the left when you can't even work with your own allies." Round after round, it was blow for blow. AOC invoked climate collapse. Jasmine countered with urban disinvestment. AOC struck on immigration. Jasmine fired back on gun reform delays. The moderator tried to maintain order, but the room pulsed with tension. Then, AOC stepped past her podium. "This isn't about policy anymore. It's about vision. We either evolve or we implode." Jasmine, arms crossed, replied, "You're right. And maybe it's time the revolution had more than just a brand and a slogan. Maybe it needs leaders who listen." The room went dead silent. The broadcast cut to commercial. But the internet had already crowned a winner. Everyone lost. And somehow, everyone won. 2 voices, 1 stage, and a storm that shook the soul of a party already at war with itself. Was it courage or chaos, reform or rebellion? One thing's for sure: America wasn't just watching, it was waking up.